Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. I imagine a number of you have been waiting to see what I was going to have to say about President Trump's farewell address as he left the White House. We'll wait a little while for lots of people to get here. But I guess my initial comment is just relax. Relax. Remember the 48 rule, the 48-hour rule. Can anyone who's already here tell me what the 48-hour rule is? The 48-hour rule is something that I had to develop in order to tell people who read my blog to just settle down and not overreact to whatever Donald Trump does, says, is reported to have done, or is reported to have said. You know, it's very, very common. It's very, very normal for Trump to throw the occasional head fake. He's done it repeatedly, many, many times. Okay? Does that mean that he is doing it right now? No, of course not. But it's important to keep in mind everything that you know about the man, about what he's doing, about his objectives, and about the way that he achieves those objectives. Okay? And so, what have I told you from the very beginning? What have I told you since November 6th? I've been saying, don't even think about reaching any conclusions until after January 20th. Is it January 20th yet? No. So there's absolutely no reason to pay any attention to anything that you see. Tonight we're going to leave the shills and the doubters up. Jagarthan says, constantly argues Trump still has a trick up his sleeve. Trump has the upper hand. I'm never wrong. Companies wanted to hire me because I'm so smart and can predict things. Vox is a joke. You're welcome to think so. Christopher M says, it's over. Time to face reality. I don't think it's over at all. Here's what's interesting. Almost all of the people who are saying it's over are saying it's over because Trump said something. These are the same people who also insist that Trump is a liar. So, if you're a liar, then why do you believe what the person says just because you think that it's something that you want to believe? And so, you know, I was talking to a member of the Legal Legion this evening, and he said, well, is there anything that bothers you about, you know, what Trump is doing and everything? And I said, yeah, I don't like how honest he is. He said, what do you mean that he's too honest? I said, well, if I was him and I was planning to take action, then what I would do is I would be conceding every single time anyone stuck a microphone in my face. I would be promising to support and uphold the next president of the United States, left, right, and center. I would be telling everyone about my plans to launch a media empire. I would pardon myself. I would do absolutely everything to make sure that it looked like I had genuinely and legitimately conceded. And so that's what bothered me, is because I think that Trump is going to take action. I believe that the military is going to be involved in that somehow. And I believe that's why there's however many thousand troops in Washington, D.C. right now. I mean, this isn't that hard. If you think about it, all you need to do is remember what happens pretty much every single time one country invades another. They swear up and down that they never imagined for a second sending their troops across the border. They just happen to have 10 divisions who just happen to be located directly across the road from all the bridges that enter. And so I could be wrong. Of course I could be wrong. But I can tell you that if I was on the other side, and remember, as a game designer and as a very good war gamer, I'm accustomed to misdirection. And I'm accustomed to having to look at things from the other side. All right? Let me give you an example. I once played a game of Advanced Squad Leader against one of the highest rated ASL players in the tournament, right? And I knew he was better than me. There's no question that he was better than me. I mean, this guy was phenomenally good. And the scenario involved having a fortified hidden location. And there were 2 or 3 locations at the end of the map that were usually the popular locations to try to defend. Now, you didn't have enough forces to hold it, but you'd have a chance at winning if you could just defend long enough for the time to run out. Okay? Now, that was the obvious thing to do. That's how everybody plays it. But I knew that this guy was going to wipe me out if I played it the normal way. My only chance of winning was to do the unexpected. So what I did is I put my location right up at the front edge of the permissible territory. I put it up in a location that I thought was pretty likely that he was not even going to take a look at. He was just going to run right by. And it worked beautifully. Now, keep in mind, if he had bothered to stop and check that location, the game would have been over on the first turn. So, what I did was just fought exactly as if my headquarters was at the rear. I did a fighting with retreat. I got pushed back. Of course, because the guy was so good, he managed to actually drive me out of my fake headquarters because I'd positioned all my troops to make it look like that. And it was really funny because on the second to last turn, he managed to take that headquarters, and he said, oh, "Okay, good, good game." I said, "What are you talking about? The game's not over." He said, "But isn't that your headquarters?" I said, "No, it's really not." And he was so angry and upset. And everybody else in the tournament was really surprised because they were wondering who the hell I was, not being a top player. So the point is that if you're going to win, you need to engage in misdirection, you need to mislead your enemy, and you need to make sure that your enemy fails to understand what you're doing. Now, it's possible that you doubters are right. It's possible that you skeptics are right. I don't deny it. Yeah, I did win that game. Advanced Squad Leader. Those who are familiar with the game probably already know which scenario I'm talking about. But the point is that if Trump is doing what I think he's doing, if Trump is doing what a number of other people who are highly intelligent and who have been paying attention to this sort of thing for a long time is doing, then what you saw today is exactly what you'd expect. Like I said, the only thing that bothers me is that I kind of feel like he's leaving, I kind of feel like he's making it too obvious. We know that they suspected that it was a trap. That's why Cuomo suddenly didn't want to show up. Now, apparently, again, assuming that that's the purpose, then what he did worked. All of you who are beginning to doubt, all of those of you who are concluding that it's over when it clearly isn't. Tim says, Michael Yon, a war correspondent, says smells like a trap. That's true, but interestingly enough, Michael Yon said it was all over several days ago. So suddenly he's starting to get suspicious. A lot of other people were starting to get suspicious. Again, that's why Governor Cuomo said he wasn't going to go. Now, suddenly, Cuomo feels comfortable showing up. So that's a good sign from our perspective. Now, again, I'm not saying that my observations are necessarily correct. There are no guarantees. The enemy always gets a vote. The synthesis, the result is going to come from the synthesis of the opposing side's plans. It is not going to perfectly follow from either Plan A or Plan B. What moves might the Biden-Harris team make to counter? There's a lot of different moves they could make. For example, one thing that I noticed today was Ashley Biden, Joe Biden's daughter, having a very prominent piece about how she's concerned about her father's safety. And so it's entirely possible that some sort of false flag is planned because Kamala Harris is the one that the Democrats wanted to be president in the first place. And so if you just apply the way that the left tends to think, then it's entirely possible that there will be some sort of false flag assassination attempt that will be partially successful, and it will be blamed on Trump forces, and it will be and that will be used to attempt to sway the military and keep them on the side of the Democrats. So, and again, I'm not upset or critical of anybody who doubts this. It's perfectly reasonable to doubt it. And so when you look at, when you look at the situation, obviously, the normal, just superficial perspective is, well, it's over, Trump's done. I have no idea why there's lots of troops there. The media clearly has no idea because they're trying to explain away these things, and they just don't know. They don't have a good explanation. I personally think that if you just look at the obvious, and I said this several days ago, I believe that Trump is going to cross the Rubicon because he already took Rome. He already occupied Rome. Coddington, what do you mean by he just did it? I don't know what you're talking about there. I mean, it's obviously not the farewell speech. That was more than 10 minutes ago. So, the Trump D-class. Yeah, I mean, Voice of Reason says, when was the last time Vox was right about anything? Well, I was correct about Brexit. I was correct about Trump winning in 2016. I was correct about Trump winning a landslide in 2020. So, Resar says, if you turn out to be wrong and the expected happens, well, it's not what I expect, but it's what most people expect. Just how bad will the persecution over the next few years become? It will be savage. It will be absolutely savage. They're already kicking people like Michelle Malkin off of Twitter and so forth. Oh, I was right about, yes, that's right. I was right about the trade war. Everybody said that there wasn't going to be a trade war with China. And if there was, it would be bad for the U.S. I said there will be a trade war and the U.S. will win it. So, let's see here. There's another one. Trump's farewell sounded more like a State of the Union address. It rather did. I encourage you. I've got a link to the transcript on the blog. Go ahead and read the entire speech. I think that you'll find some encouragement in it. Not necessarily a lot, but what you won't find is any reference to Joe Biden. What you won't find is any reference to losing an election. What you won't find is any actual concession. I think that it's much more likely that there will be a military interregnum than a Biden administration. I just flat out don't believe there will be a Biden administration. We'll find out in the next 48 hours. So, it'll be very interesting. And look, I'm not going to hide from my opinions. I never have. You can go, if you want to see what my past predictions were, correct and incorrect, they're all on the blog. Ryan Sullivan says, if you're right, I'll subscribe to UATV for life. Look, you guys should be subscribing to UATV regardless, because you're not going to get the kind of news and opinion there very easily anywhere else. we're fully independent. Most places are not. Most places are subject to control via the cloud and so forth. So, but I do appreciate the thought, Ryan. Christopher G says, for a man of culture who pronounces my name correctly. How else would you pronounce G? But yeah, I mean, this is a massively historical moment. Regardless of how it turns out, it's fascinating stuff. It's crucial stuff, yeah. Oh, I think there will probably be a economic collapse if I'm incorrect and Biden/Harris take over. Jack Cool says, in event of Boogaloo, we will have lots of different groups with shared goals, i.e. new versus old rooted whites, advice to keep factions together and coherent. Find shared objectives and don't purity spiral. Just understand that allies share an objective, they don't share opinions about everything. 500 Milk says, you can't blame Vox, whatever the outcome. You already came here with the same mindset and are only seeking an opinion, not the gospel. Well, that's probably true. Clown Detector says, tomorrow you'll have egg on your face. Maybe I will. Wouldn't be the first time. Won't be the last time. So, but I'm not going to apologize for sharing my thinking. I mean, here's something that a lot of people don't understand about the pointlessness of always predicting the status quo. If that's what you do, you're useless. Nobody needs anybody to say that what happened yesterday will happen tomorrow. What everybody wants to know is what might happen that will be different. And this can also lead to a change bias. But I try very hard not to simply claim that there's going to be change for the sake of change. I only conclude that there's going to be change if I see signs that there are. And I see signs that there are so many anomalies surrounding tomorrow's supposed inauguration that I don't believe a normal inauguration is going to take place. I don't believe that power is going to be transferred from President Trump to Joe Biden. There's a number of different possibilities. Personally, I would prefer for President Trump to simply remain president. But there might be other plans. There might be a military interregnum announcing new elections 3 months from now. It's possible. I'd be satisfied with that. The only thing that I don't want to see is I don't want to see someone who didn't win a honest and fair election sworn in as president. And I don't think that that's going to happen. Chronobear says, I'm running a business as a Sigma and my partner's a Delta. Is this generally a good partnership? Yes, although he might occasionally look to you to be the Alpha that you're not. What archetype is a good add in this situation? You want to find a Bravo. A Bravo will serve a Sigma in the same capacity he serves an Alpha. The Sigma is not comfortable with it, but it's not actually going to harm anything. Jers says, are you writing history of the current events? No. If not, do you know someone who is? No, but I would like to because we would like to publish it. Is Biden an AI deepfake? I don't believe so. I see no reason to believe so. Larry Dynamite says, how do you like your eggs cooked? Over hard. Amajud has tried to subscribe, never gotten the email. All right, well, we'll email me, but make sure that you say what subscription you have. I don't bother responding to people who say, I have a subscription to UATV, I can't log in. Okay, well, I'm not going to, first of all, you've already been sent the instructions, and I'm not going to take the time to try to sort out what your subscription is, etc., etc. I've even had people email me and tell me that they can't log in, and only after trying to get it sorted out, then they're like, oh, I subscribed with a different email. Look, I'm not wasting my time on this stuff. I don't have the time to waste on it. So just, if you're having a problem, let us know with all of the relevant information. Then we can help you. Otherwise, not so much. Let's see. Why would Trump say the best is yet to come in a Biden administration? Well, that's exactly the kind of thing that the doubters and skeptics have trouble with. There's a lot of anomalies that they can't explain. And so usually the most, Occam's razor suggests that the simplest rational, logical explanation is probably the correct one. It doesn't mean the simplest message, the simplest answer that you can somehow imagine, which is usually wrong. Okay? Let's see that. Just Crush Bear says, do you think most mainstream media stories are really similar to how the show Punk'd was formatted? Real people and actors mixed into the same scene. I wouldn't say most, but I would say that probably more than we would normally assume. Gummer Bear says, my stepson has been in the Air Force 8 years and actually just transferred to the Space Force. He suggested we stay home the next couple days and says there's actually been 91,000 troops deployed. Yeah, one thing that people haven't paid attention to is the fact that there are troops deployed in every capital city. They're deployed in St. Paul. They're deployed in the capital of Michigan. They're employed all over the place. And so I just don't think that they're deployed in order to deal with a threat from the Boogaloo Boys, who, by the way, don't exist. And so, generally speaking, when the military deploys in that force, it's because they're going to be used. Barefoot Gardener says they're deployed in Chicago. They're deployed in Sacramento. What is a double envelopment? A double envelopment is when you allow your center to be pushed back, so the enemy thinks that you're breaking. And as they push forward, you swing in the flanks, the wings around them, and then they're enveloped from both sides. So this is a very rare thing in the history of war. When it is successfully accomplished, it's incredibly lethal. The most famous example is when Hannibal defeated the Romans at the Battle of Cannae. Boris Sitnikov says, do you own any cryptocurrencies? If so, not why? I don't talk about my own personal finances ever. So that's not the sort of question to ask me. How does a double envelopment differ from a pincer movement? Because a pincer movement does not involve allowing your center to be pushed back. And in the case of Cannae, Hannibal actually positioned his forces in the center forward specifically in order to allow them to give even more ground than normal. So it was very intentional. A pincer movement just means that you're trying to strike from both flanks while you hold the center. So it's a less complicated strategic move or tactical move. Would the Battle of the Bulge be considered double envelopment? No, not at all. The Battle of the Bulge was a completely unexpected attack. They did end up allowing themselves to get cut up. That's really more of what you would call a pocket action. Jerome points out, relating to the double envelopment, the only reason that ambush worked was because the Roman leadership thought that they were winning. They were foolhardy. Yeah, that's exactly correct. And so, there's no possible way for us to know. Okay? There's no possible way for us to know whether Trump is genuinely losing or whether he's been setting up for the double envelopment. And so there's no point in fretting over it. It is or it isn't. There's signs that it is, but it's always possible that it isn't. It's always possible that it goes wrong. Dan Weston says, why give up now? If we're wrong, but not because we gave up. Precisely. Like you said, we'll fight in the shade if we have to. Either way, we fight. Precisely. Why would you give up now? Because Trump said something? He hasn't told you he's given up. He hasn't told you to give up. He told you the best is yet to come. Why don't you trust the president even if you can't trust in the existence of a plan? Pablo Zarate says, if this goes how we're all hoping it will, do you think that Trump will also deal with the university system that has become a cartel? Yes, I think that's definitely on the list. Awesome streams, no matter what, at least we will know the truth. Right, that's the benefit of even if things go badly, at least we're no longer being deceived. At least everyone knows they're being ruled by evil. At least everyone knows they're being ruled by functionally fascists. This is a good thing because it's been what's happening and what they're trying to do has been happening for the last 50 years. The only difference is that now you know about it. Now it's out in the open. Which book of yours would you recommend reading first? I don't know. Depends what you like. If you like fantasy, I would ask I would not ask me. I would ask someone else. Let's see. I work in government near DC. We were told to stay home tomorrow. Last minute email. Well, that's interesting. Interesting indeed. So, with so many troops deployed, couldn't just be for Antifa types, surely. I certainly wouldn't think so. I can't imagine that would be the case, but one never knows. So, anyhow, on that note, I'll wish you a good night, but this is going to be obviously a very exciting next 24 hours. I will pop on and stream again tomorrow night, assuming that communications are not disrupted. And look, just keep your spirits up. Hope. Pray. Don't be afraid. We're not given a spirit of fear, and we're not given a spirit of defeat. President Trump himself has told you the best is yet to come. So let's have confidence in that and see what happens. I'm Vox Day. This is the Darkstream.